All right, everybody, we are live in Lesson Plan E Corrective Actions Workshop. Welcome. I hope you are having a fantastic day today, as I always say, right? Um, Today we're going to be, as I said, we're going to be talking about the corrective actions. What is that? What does corrective actions mean? It means when you make a mistake, you know what steps to take to rectify those mistakes and prevent them from happening again. Now you're going to make the same mistakes over and over again, even if you correct them. Things happen. There's points in the games where the enemy team is forcing you to make a mistake, or take a risk, I should say. Because sometimes risks are only mistakes when they don't pan out your way, right? That's all that is. Um, and as somebody who's played this game quite a bit, I can tell you that I've made a lot of mistakes on stream. Whether in tournaments or in you know personal relationships in the game and outside of the game. Communication mistakes, strategy mistakes, uh, arithmetic mistakes. Like, I'm thinking I'm in reverse, but I'm actually going forward, or I thought I was going forward, so I'm actually going to reverse, hitting a torpedo. Um, not paying attention to drops, not paying attention to the map as much. Things happen all the time. How do you rectify them though? How do you learn from them? First things first is you have to make a goal for yourself and say, okay, I want to get better at this, whatever that is. I want to get better with Velos. I want to get better with Schultz. I want to get better as a destroyer player as a whole. I want to get better with all four destroyer types and be proficient in them. Well, obviously, you got to put your reps in, right? As you put your reps in, you're going to notice mistakes happen. Not looking at your specs is a big mistake. Not looking at the lineups on the enemy team. Note the amount of radars, note the amount of sonars, the things that can hurt you directly as a destroyer player, what kind of destroyers that they have. Um, Looking at those lineups, because there's plenty of times you'll see me on stream make mistakes where I did not, um, I did not, how do you say it? I didn't plan like really well because I didn't look at the enemy team. I just was either talking to the chat or whatever. And a lot of you guys, you're not gonna be, um, you know, you're not gonna be streaming. Most of you guys don't stream, so you don't have to really worry about that kind of distraction. But just make sure that even if you don't do that, that you might not have that kind of distraction, but you might have a mental distraction somewhere else. And for those of you who are not taking the game that serious, I highly doubt that's you if you're in this video, because that means you're taking this game serious and you want to get better at the game. So that's why I'm creating this for anyone that wants to kind of take this a little bit to the next level. So, I'm going to assume that you're here to get better. I'm going to assume that you're here to really do some work and be better than this guy right here. So this video it's probably, I think 2024 is when it came out. So it's a few years old, but um, actually, yeah, late 2024 because Velos had come out. I think, when the hell did Velos come out? Yeah, Velos came out late 2024, right? And right before Halloween, right around there. So this clip, it's just a small clip, it's like a minute long or whatever, and it just shows the amount of growth that I had from when I first started playing to this point, which would be like when I started getting real, like, to the next level of my personal gameplay and my stats. This is when I started getting to that level. Um, so what are the common mistakes that I made was being broadside in a cap, hitting torpedoes. Obviously, here we don't have a cap, that's in the middle, so I'm not really broadside any caps right now. But watching the twist and track, trying not to get fooled by it. I know what this ship is already because it was spotted before. It's a daring. And I also know, based on my confrontations with daring, that I'm not going to win the gunfight, especially with Velos against a daring. That's impossible. unless I hit a torpedo, right? Which I always say that when you're in a torp boat, that's what you got to do. You know, if you want to win, you gotta. And this is before the Vels got its two major buffs. So I know that Bells doesn't stand a chance against it. So I'm being very cautious, playing back. You know, if you see how far back I'm playing in our cap, and they're playing pretty aggressive because, well, they're daring, right? Um, Another mistake that people make is they are overly aggressive because they think they have an OP. Well, they know they have an OP ship, but they're not an OP player. Okay, so just make sure that you are, cognizant of that, and that you're not, looking at your enemy as inferior. You know, you always want to make sure that you're not underestimating anybody. Okay, just play your game, do your job, and you'll go home. Right. So underestimating the enemy, hitting torpedoes. Let's say, they say hitting a torpedo. I mean, torpedoes get hit on your ship. Let's say you do get hit with a torp. Don't call it a random torp. Don't look at it like that, because you're not going to learn nothing from that mistake. Where were you when those torps hit you? Were you in a torp lane? A lot of times you were, right? So if you were in a torp lane, then you got to understand, if you're going to be in a torp lane, that you're parallel with it, so you can easily just make those slight adjustments to dodge. But if you're broadside, you're showing more surface area to that torp lane, you're going to get hit with a torp or get close to it. Or worse, you dodge the torpedoes, but then now you're in a predicament because you're in a bad spot. Now you're stuck on an island or stuck on a beach somewhere, or a rock, because you have to dodge those torpedoes. When you rotate, make sure you're doing it accordingly, or appropriately, I should say. So let's watch this, and we'll look at it from both sides here. Very nice. Oh, Jeffy. All right. So if this guy has sonar up, I'll be able to kind of tie him up here. It's going to be a tough gun battle. Nope. No sonar? Oh, there it is. Alright, so what I'm hoping with these torps is that he turned, because a lot of times what they'll do is they'll pop sonar and turn left. Alright. So, if you notice what I had said, that the tendencies of other destroyer players is to, when they pop smoke, they'll do this U-turn instead of just going straight. If they're engaged with another DD, they just tend to do that. If you notice on the map, he was turning left. He just got caught with, with those torps. Let's look at it from my perspective, right? If you notice that I noticed the tendencies of other destroyers, it's because I've made a lot of mistakes. It's because I've either had, I've had a lot of successes, but also a lot more mistakes. So because of that, I was able to kind of predict where this DD was going to go, because I had done the same thing in the past, and I know that in the past other DDs have done the same thing to me. So just to make sure that you know to lock that into your memory, engrave that in your memory. Depends on how much you care about the game, how much you care about your game, how much you care about your play style, how much you care about actually getting better. Engrave those mistakes, those successes, both of them equally, into your memory, so you can make the right choices. Now, the daring made the mistake of not staying with that island and controlling the map with the sonar, or controlling that fight with the sonar. He didn't do that. Unfortunately, he doesn't really have any support anyway. I have a battleship behind me and then 2 destroyers at Alpha. He doesn't have anything. No support in the middle. Everybody's too far out at A, so he needs to play accordingly. Now, what he should have done is instead of coming out here and being out of cover, right, and exposing himself to basically, 4 ships that could shoot at him, really 3, he should have played on this side here and then isolated one of these destroyers. Then it would have forced me to then overextend or give me an opportunity to overextend. Give me the opportunity to make a mistake for his benefit. Go over here, back into this cap, because then he would have came back over, and then I would have been stuck between 2 destroyers. At this point in my career, I probably would have made that mistake. And it's just one of those mind games you got to play as a destroyer player because you are the cerebral assassin of the field, or of the seas, I should say. Because you can spot somebody, but they can't spot you, so it fucks with them. They see that little eyeball the entire time on their screen. They're like, "Where is this motherfucker?" Especially if they don't have twist and track, it messes with them. Now, experienced players, they know how to kind of push that aside, and they'll be able to kind of see the tendencies. In standard, sometimes it's a little harder because like there's so many different types of players. But if you have like 30,000 games in this or matches in this game, it's one of those things where it's like you can kind of predict where they are before they get there because you've seen at least 98% of the players. So it's just that 2% that kind of gets you to actually learning something, right? So obviously I didn't make any mistakes here because the enemy team didn't force any mistakes. They could have pushed this battleship down into here, and then it would have been a 2v1 because our battleship would really wouldn't done much, but then I would have spotted that battleship and then not made the rotation that I did now. So I would have kind of rotated out, and that Daring still would have had map control in the middle. Nobody's going to, compete with him. Now, he lost half his HP before he got to me, but my guns didn't really do much to him. It was just that one torp that eliminated the rest of his health because it's like a 20k torp. So, learning from your tendencies, your mistakes. If you get hit with a torpedo broadside, don't keep doing the same thing over and over again. That's kind of like my point. My point is like don't make the same mistake over and over again. Change it. How do you change it? Well, you have to make a goal. Because I'll give you an example. If you're racing on a track but there's no boundaries on the track, you don't really know where to go. If you don't know where the finish line is, how do you know that you finished the race? How do you know what your best lap is? Because you don't have a goal. You don't have like specific place that you need to be at a certain time. If you want to hit that 1700 XP mark or 1900 or 2000, whatever that is, you got to set that goal. And it's like, how am I going to get there? Right. If I'm a battleship player, first of all, anybody who has above like 16 to 1700 XP and they have like a lot of battleship gameplay, that kudos to them because it's hard to get XP in a battleship unless you do an insane amount of damage to the enemy team and get to like high cal because high cal will get you guarantee you almost always over 2000 XP. So when you're a destroyer player, obviously you have the caps, you have other destroyers that you can go against, and the XP is not necessarily damage based; it's more damage percentage based. So why am I talking about that? Is because again, if you want to correct your mistakes and get to that specific goal, you have to have that goal first. If you want that goal first, then you need to set steps to get there. You won't be able to correct any mistakes if you don't have like a set focus on what you want to do. So for me, it was like at this point, I think I was at like maybe 1650 XP by this video, somewhere in there. And I wanted to get at first I wanted to get the 1600. Once I got there, okay, I want to get to 1700. Then I have to, in the next lesson plan, I'll kind of talk about stats and how to interpret them. And there's many different ways to interpret them, and we can like have, an hour discussion, an argument or whatever on what's more important or whatever. But just to interpret the stats, because as somebody who has in the past recruited players, I want to take a look at, you know, how to really analyze their stats and what it implies. But your stats don't matter as long as you continue to move your goalpost higher and higher and higher. You know, if I want to increase my survivability, what do I got to do less of? Well, I got to stop rushing nose into the caps. Okay, I stop doing that. Stern into the caps. XP goes up. Win rate goes up. You know, my survivability goes up, and my overall happiness in the game goes up. Minus the teammates, because obviously you can't control that. You can only control what you do. You can't control the the divs that you're in, but you can't control the rest of the team. There's always going to be 6 players that don't know what the hell they're doing. So, um, if you want to be able to hit your shots more, get into training rooms. Get reps with your ship and know the pattern of where your shells go and aim accordingly. Kind of aim like an average. If you know that your shells go really high, typically aim a little lower. And RNG is always going to be something you can't control, but depending on what you build, like you can control it a little bit more, even if it's just 3%, 4%, whatever that is. But anyways, I hope this helps. Like I said, set yourself a goal. Go out there and just grade yourself on a scale of 1 to 10. I feel like I did a 6 on that one. How could I make that a 10? Well, if I wouldn't have done this or whatever, okay, then play another match, and either with the same ship or same type of ship or whatever, and just go on from there and take notes on yourself, because nobody else is going to do that for you, and no one should. You should be self-accountable and work on your communications, work on your builds, work on your strategies, your personal ones, and then when you get people around you that play very similar, that's when things get fun, because then you guys can do stats together, or strats together, excuse me. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in Lesson Plan F. Take care.